What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the AJRK podcast. Man, we have missed y'all. We have so much in store for you today. We're glad that y'all are tuning in with us. Let me apologize and say, man, it's been a while since you've seen us. We had an amazing episode recorded last week, but like all things, we had some technical difficulties. We put our amazing sound engineer on it. He fixed those bugs out, so we're glad to be back and join you today. So welcome.
Yeah, we'll call this episode 8 take 2, I guess.
Right.
I think we're on episode 8, but yeah, like he said, we took a week off. Last week we decided to start recording on Fridays. I think that's what we'll do for a little bit. And yeah, went to upload it. The audio was completely messed up. So we said, all right, we'll try it again next week. I think we got everything fixed, so we should be good to go now. So
Definitely.
We appreciate having everybody back.
Yeah, and we're going to keep the conversation going. What we were doing last week is we told y'all when we left off, we told y'all we were going to start on the disparities in the educational system in America. And this is the Build It podcast. So we don't want to just address what's going on. We're looking at how to build that bridge for racial equality and see America be what America desires to be. And that's, once again, a great nation, you know what I'm saying, that takes care of all of its people, that has opportunities for many men, women to succeed. But as we were preparing, as we were doing our studying, we have a good episode, and we're going to lay that episode out later. Just so much has been going on in this country. So what we decided to do was we're doing some current event episodes, and we're just going to have this conversation to where we want y'all to be in the comment section. Reach out to us. Hit us up in our inboxes, call us, send us text messages. Let us know what your thoughts are, good, bad, or indifferent, extreme left, extreme right, whatever your comments are. This podcast is designed for us to have those tough conversations. So starting out with the tough conversations, a lot of people are probably spun up on the Jacob Blake shooting, which happened in Kennesaw. Kennesaw is probably about 45 minutes to an hour outside of Chicago. It's in Wisconsin. Jacob Blake was a black man shot 7 times in the back in front of his 3 sons. The sons' ages were 8, 5, and 2, I believe. He didn't have a gun. He did have a knife in his car. The police were responding to a possible domestic violence dispute. It said he had a warrant out for his arrest. Today he pleaded innocent to the charges of rape. So I will clear this up for all of those that be careful if you're looking at someone's past or looking at what someone did to justify your thoughts on why someone deserved to get killed or deserved to get shot. We have to understand that this isn't China, this isn't North Korea. The way that America is supposed to be is innocent until proven guilty, and we actually have checks and balances, and we have laws and ways and things of reaching the goals. We can't sit there and justify killing everybody just because an accusation has been made or just because they have pending charges against them. There's actually a process. There's this judicial process that we have volumes and volumes and volumes on where things should play out. But yes, so a lot of people are saying, oh no, he raped a 14-year-old girl, he raped a 15-year-old girl. This is propaganda coming from one side because this is what we call a fallacy. Because if I can exaggerate it, if I can balloon the story, now mind you, the charge against him is not something we're like, oh no, he didn't have this charge. Like, matter of fact, you could use the charge against him, and that's enough. That represents your point. You get your point across, but do not try to amplify it because it when you use this fallacy, it takes away from your credibility in your original argument. He does have a sexual battery charge out against him. He pleaded innocent to that today. He has to stand trial. His accuser gets to go before a court and face him and has to stand trial for it. But yeah, so the police were responding, and he was not listening. He wanted nothing to do with the police. We see that in this country right now, man. Nobody wants anything to do with the police. We sit there and say it is an occupation. It is a difficult occupation being a police officer in America right now. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. That's a good thing. See, in the military, the way I am as an NCO, as a senior non-commissioned officer, ask my boy Ryan, I used to I used to hold people accountable to the rank that they had. The more responsibility that we entrusted them with, the more I held them accountable. So my NCOs, I would always come down harder on my NCOs than I would on my airmen who were just now coming in. The ones that I gave great responsibility, the ones that I put in charge of people, they had the responsibility was great, but the demand was even greater. So yes, it's tough being a police officer in America right now. But what we're telling you is everybody does not have what it takes to be a police officer. That you shouldn't be able to train for 6 weeks to 8 weeks, and then you're authorized to carry a gun and a badge, and when you don't even know the laws of the land. There should be more going into police training. So because you're going to come on these situations like this all of the time where individuals are not listening to you. So we sit there and said, they was responding to this call. They said there was a knife in the vehicle. Well, we were talking earlier, like a tactic that you use to where a person with a knife is not a threat to a person with a gun. You create distance in between yourself to where you don't have to shoot someone in the back 7 times. You do not. It's not required. So we saw this shooting. He didn't end up dying. He is paralyzed at this time, and when he was paralyzed, they had him chained. They had him handcuffed to the bed in this hospital. Well, while these protests were going on, then we had another rogue. We had a militia out there in Wisconsin. The militia called for its citizens to mobilize and help the police. You know what I'm saying, and defend businesses. So they put the call out. We had Kyle Rittenhouse, who's 17 years old. He drove what 45 minutes into Kennesaw with I think he had an AR-15. Yeah, with the AR-15. He said he was there. He said he was there to provide medical assistance and help businesses protect themselves. He ended up getting in an altercation, shot an individual, shot and killed an individual, and then the crowd turned on him, trying to disarm him, and then he shot 2 more individuals, killing 2 total, and then injuring a third. He's charged. He has 5 counts against him right now. He's 17 years old, and he is charged with murder. You know, so now we have in the wake of the shooting, in the wake of these protests and all of this stuff going on, you have another 17-year-old on the other side, on the far right side, that now is standing trial for murder. And then the country is being divided. They're saying it was self-defense, and then some are saying no, he didn't have the right. When you understand the laws, this is the thing. In America, we don't like to read the laws. We don't like to understand the laws. We like to go off of our opinions and go with what we think. Y'all know, I'm a huge proponent for the Second Amendment. I have guns. I'm trained to carry guns. I have guns in rounds. You know what I'm saying? Here, I have them locked up. I have them ready to go. Here's the thing: at 17 years old, so some think that okay, he just crossed state lines with an illegal weapon. No, he traveled. He went from one location. He's 17 years old. You know what I'm saying? When we allow 16, 17-year-olds to have guns in some states, it's usually only allowed to go hunting. And this is animals during hunting season, not people. So he armed himself up. He traveled, which was illegal. He crossed state lines, which was illegal. He open carried in a state that he couldn't at his age, which was illegal. And then he dispensed his weapon. A lot of people like to say, stand your ground laws, all kind of things. But again, you have to understand the laws in the state he was at the time. Wisconsin doesn't have a stand your ground law. They have a castle doctrine. And the castle doctrine says you can protect your business, your home, or your vehicle. He's not from Wisconsin. He didn't have a business. He wasn't protecting his home. He wasn't protecting his vehicle. And then you have the duty to retreat. So what they're looking at is they're looking at the first altercation. Someone tried to say the individual threw a Molotov cocktail at him. That was a lie again. That's why I said be careful about these policies that are out there. And it ended up being a plastic bag with a bottle in it. They got an altercation. He shot and killed that individual. And like I said, they're looking at that now. They're trying to see if there was a muzzle flash. They're trying to see if all kind of things happened. So when that happened, you had what I call heroes. They're trying to brand them as, and again, more fallacies. These individuals that lost their life to fit a narrative, they're making up charges. And what we said last week is we said, white America, welcome to the understanding of what Black people go through, because you can be the victim and you can die, and they will try to put all kind of charges on you to justify you dying. So if you're going to decide to stand, you know what I'm saying, for justice and equal rights, and you're out there protesting, and you're out there demonstrating, and you're out there making your voice being heard, you will be a target. And when you're a target, you are opening yourself up to being attacked in ways that we've been attacked in this country for a very long time. So they try to sit there and say, again, they had sexual assault charges, they had all these charges. That's not true. Yes, Kyle Rittenhouse shot the first individual. The second individual attacked him and tried to disarm him. All he had was a skateboard, so he attacked him with a skateboard, tried to take the weapon away. He was unsuccessful. And he was shot. I slowed down the video footage where he shot the guy in the arm. The pictures I have, the man did have a gun, but his gun was up in the air like this as he was approaching Kyle, trying to disarm him, trying to reason with him. That's what it appeared like, trying to reason with him. And then that's when he was shot again, when he was shot in the arm. The crazy part is Kyle walked right past the police officers. The crowd told him, hey, this is the shooter. They let him go. He drove home. They apprehended him at his home the next day. So a lot to unwrap here, right? A lot's going on here. We talked about all of this last week. Before we start get into it, how did I cover the events well, or what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think you covered everything well. I read something this week, and I believe it is the official statement that his defense attorney released, pretty much stating that it is trying to contradict the story that has been told to us so far, in that I believe it says that he didn't bring the weapon across state lines, that it was one of his friend's weapons that lives in Wisconsin. And I think they said, I can't remember what he was originally doing there, but some car dealerships or something like that were asking for people to come defend their property because they were worried about the protesters that had begun to start rioting and stuff like that, that they were worried that the cops were pushing them towards where their dealerships and stuff were. So I think the statement says that they had, I don't know why they had asked him, but they asked him and his friend if they could help. So they went to his friend's house to get the weapons, and then he was defending the dealership or whatnot. Then I can't remember where he left there to go somewhere to help people that were injured, and when he went back to the dealership, the cops told him that he needed to leave there, so he left. And then the dealership people said that we have another spot that needs help to be defended, so he started heading that way. And then I think that's when he got into according to the statement, got into all the altercations and stuff like that. But
go ahead.
It just real quick, for that situation, either way it goes, he's arming himself, so therefore he's making the decision that he's willing to kill people.
Yep.
You don't arm yourself unless you have not made a decision that you are willing, if it comes to it, to kill someone. I'm not
exactly.
I'm not anti-gun or anything like that, but it's like,
that's the basic rules of owning a gun.
It's like, it's like if I decide to go down to the beach and I'm like, hey, I'm going to take my gun down with me to the beach. That means if I feel threatened at the beach, there's a chance that I'm going to be willing to kill somebody there. Because why else would I take it with me?
Yeah. And here's the thing. Here's the interesting part. And this is the crazy part. Like, so people are trying to prove intent with different degrees of murder, whatever degree you get charged with, depends on if you need intent or not. But the intent is there. The intent can be, people think intent is you have to have a name and person in mind, that's what, you know what I'm saying, and I go and I kill that person. That's not how intent works. But like you said, when he armed himself up, when they put this call out, help defending themselves, he already had the mentality. He already had the mentality that if need be, you know what I'm saying, I'm gonna take a life. So what we have to back up from and look like, if he was not there, would there be 3 individuals that shot, 2 that died? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying? His presence there with the weapon resulted in this loss of life. And was he responsible enough to be there with the weapon? We can tell you the answer is no. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, we would really have to get into the Wisconsin laws, but you have the right to defend your property. You know, and the crazy part is, because he's being, like I said, he's being held a hero. Um, you had the crazy thing to me was Christian organizations had raised $100,000, you know what I'm saying, for his defense fund. So you will have people that, even if these stories aren't true, that will corroborate the story that is being told, that is coming up with, trying to get him to defense. We've seen this with George Zimmerman. We've seen George Zimmerman celebrated for killing a black teen. We've seen him, to this day, he signed Skittles packages. He auctioned the gun that was used, that went for hundreds of thousands of dollars, because the hate that is in America. So when you take a life, and that's what we're talking about. That's what this conversation is about. That's what these protests are about. When you take a life, whether you're a cop, whether you're a civilian, whether it's the Ahmaud Arbery case, whether it is, when you take a life, there are consequences and repercussions, and you have to answer for those actions. He has to stand trial and answer for the actions of disengaging his firearm and taking the life of 2 individuals and shooting and injuring a third. That's what it is. Do you know what I'm saying? That's how America works. If not, then everybody can pull a gun out and say, I felt threatened, and kill whoever they want. Mm-hmm. And we won't even, let's not even have a trial. Every single criminal, will just coach them and coerce them and say, hey, look, make sure you tell them you felt threatened, so you took their life.
Yeah.
And that's what we're seeing. And people, instead of people wanting to see justice, like you, no matter what side of the aisle you are on, you should want to see justice. We have gotten so there's no sympathy or empathy in America, to where people don't even care that these men had lost their lives. They don't even care.
And I like what you're saying, and so that's why I want to go back to the Jacob Blake situation, because police officers obviously have more authority to use techniques and stuff like that to ensure the safety of others. But with that comes the demand for them to also do things the appropriate way.
Yes.
And that's, like, you brought up you talked a little bit about how Jacob Blake was acting and stuff like that. And it's like, one, you pretty much need to toss his background out of the equation, because he wasn't shot because of having a warrant out for his arrest. He wasn't shot because he allegedly raped someone. He wasn't shot for any of those charges. He wasn't shot for any of the past criminal things that he did that he already had to go to jail for. He was shot because he was possibly reaching for a weapon in his vehicle. And should he have fought with the cops? No. Should he have tried to reach for a weapon in his vehicle? No. But how the police went about this situation was also incorrect. If you watch the video, my mind is blown when he goes to open the door, why the cop is letting him open the door.
Yeah.
The cop is standing right there and can stop him from opening the door. So I'm not saying that the cop wanted to kill him, but the actions that the cop didn't take caused it to lead to a situation where he felt like he needed to shoot him, or he wanted
the
to shoot
crazy
him.
thing is, this same police department, the same exact police department, like you said, there's got to be an escalation of force. You know what I'm saying? Like we talked about last week that y'all didn't get to see. In the military, we have rules of engagement. We do not even treat our enemies the way we treat people of color in America, and that's absolutely crazy. We have de-escalation tactics that we use that we're trained on. You know what I'm saying? And that if you take a life downrange, you know what I'm saying, that wasn't like, you really have to be shot at by an enemy before you can disarm. You can engage the enemy with your weapon. You know what I'm saying? We sit on targets for a very long time. And downrange, we have more care and caution than we do here in America. And like you were saying, like there were steps that could have easily been taken. And this same police department, they said they felt threatened because they knew he had a knife. Now these are what, three to four officers at first. They have guns. They knew he had a knife. Shot him 7 times in the back. For like you said, he wasn't being neglected or detained because of what they didn't feel threatened because of what they knew he had done in the past. They feel threatened because they knew he had a knife. The same police department 3 days later lets a white individual walk by with a hot AR-15 that they know just shot individuals, and they didn't feel threatened. They didn't feel threatened. Then, and that situation was more than 1,000 times more tense because their posture was that they had MRAPs, they were in tactical gear, they were in everything. That posture, you know what I'm saying? They didn't feel threatened with someone that had a AR-15 that had just and they hear gunshots, and the crowd is yelling, "He shot individuals." But they shoot this man in the back 7 times because his wife says he may have a knife. Come on, we got to do better. We've got to hold people accountable, and we have to look at it all. Because I looked at the self-defense for Kyle Rittenhouse. I looked at that. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm like, I can see self-defense, but like I said, when I go through all of the other actions, and then when I look at the other side, because here's another thing: we have, because of gun culture in America, if you want to keep guns, then you know you're gonna have things that happen. This is a gun-crazed country. We love our guns. We have more guns in this country than we have citizens. If you add up our guns, I don't know what the rest of the world looks like. That's why we haven't been invaded, because everybody owns guns and everybody owns multiple guns. But in gun culture, we train our citizens on what to do in the event of active shooter. And because Kyle Rittenhouse engaged and killed the first individual, you hear 5 shots being fired. That is currently an active shooter scenario. So in an active shooter scenario, we train you to do certain things. We train you to run and retreat if possible. If retreat is not possible, we train you to hide. In the military, we don't train to hide in the military. We teach cover and concealment when engaging an enemy, but we train you to conceal yourself from the shooter. And then at last resort, what we train to prevent additional loss of life, because we've seen it time and time again in America with school shooters. Because like I said, this guy had an AR-15 at a demonstration where he knew tensions would be high. If he wanted to, he could take out as many people as he wanted. So what we train you to do is we train you to engage and disarm the enemy with whatever means necessary. If you're in the school, throw desks, throw books, throw fire extinguishers, whatever you can get your hands on. And we've seen an individual approach him and try to disarm him with a skateboard. That's why I said, y'all try to demean that individual. He was actually a hero. He knew that this man had just taken someone's life. So he said, I'm going to put my life on the line trying to take his weapon, and it cost him his life. You know what I'm saying? So we train. Y'all want to say self-defense? Oh, did the mob attack him? The mob did not attack him. They tried to disarm this man. But a lot of times, because of our biases are set up a certain way, if we don't step back and have these conversations and actually address our biases and think from the other side, then we'll do this time and time again. Like, you could care less that lives were. As a matter of fact, a lot of people are celebrating the fact that those lives were lost, and that's absolutely crazy. And what you see going on in America right now, we was covering this last week. All of this happened last week. This week, what is going on in America? We see We see just the other day, Deon K was shot in D.C. About a month. This is a month following the Rashad Brooks, who was shot in Atlanta. When Rashad Brooks was shot, we seen outside the Wendy's, we seen an immediate presence of protest show up that same day he was shot. This 18-year-old got shot in D.C. and yes, and he had a gun. So what we are seeing is because there has been zero accountability. There is no accountability. That's what the demand is for. The demand is for justice and accountability. And because that has not been there, we're seeing unrest and protests show up immediately. People aren't even waiting. You know what I'm saying? They're like, no, y'all, this is not something y'all can, and I don't blame them because this organization, when you police your own, you go through great lengths to try to bury anything from coming out. So you're seeing protests immediately. We're saying you wouldn't see this if there was accountability in this country. If we honestly, if there was a trust that America had with the judicial system for people of color, if we knew that when an officer was involved in a shooting and took a life, that it was honestly going to be investigated and they were going to have to answer. Like I said, it is a tough profession. Everybody can't do it and everybody should not be able to do it. So we sit there and say, Ryan's dad, you know what I'm saying? Your dad retired police?
Mm-hmm.
So his whole life was on the police force. So it's not a hatred. It's not a hatred for police whatsoever. It's just calling into question when questions need to be asked. You know what I'm saying? And there has to be honest answers given. So you have this protest in DC. You have this protest in DC because immediately they said, you know what, y'all aren't going to keep this from us. So we're going to be here until the information comes out. We're going to be here until justice is served. And you're going to see that all across America. We've been telling y'all it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Now you go from DC, you drive, I don't know, it's 4 hours up north to New York City, and they are protesting in New York City for the killing of, and this happened back in, I want to say March, for the killing of Daniel Prude, who died at the hands of officers. We see protests going on right now, and you're like, well, this happened back in March. Why are the protests just now happening? Here's what you're seeing in America. We've been telling you people of color have felt beneath, less than, and we've given you issue after issue after issue. Martin Luther King Jr. said that the riot is the voice of the unheard. We've been saying we've been unheard for a very long time. You sit there and saw how Kaepernick was treated, and we said, no, look, this is why he was protesting. It has nothing to do with the troops. It has nothing to do with the flag. It's like, until the flag represents what y'all said, y'all are going to hear this protest. Y'all are going to see this protest. And they were silenced time and time again. So now what you're seeing, the reason they're protesting from March is because this killing, this death was not made public. It was hidden. It's the same thing with the Ahmaud Arbery case. We seen they try to bury that case for 2 months. They had already pardoned the killers in that case until the world, until the country seen the video of Ahmaud getting gunned down in the middle of the street. So now imagine the trauma, like, because families have PTSD when they're living with injustice from their sons, their fathers, their individuals in their family being killed, and they're not being any justice. We're close to one case. Remember in Valdosta when we were stationed down there, you had Kendrick Johnson that never got justice for his death when he was killed in the high school, and they tried to cover it up and frame it as they try to frame it as an accidental asphyxiation. They try to say he climbed into Gym Max and ended up suffocating himself. Like, nobody believed that whatsoever because the evidence didn't show that. But because there was no accountability,
and I believe any camera that would have showed what happened for some reason wasn't working at the time.
Yeah, and his organs were all gone when they exhumed his body for a second autopsy. You know what I'm saying? The whole case was absolutely ridiculous. And it wasn't handled with care, and there was no transparency because there had been a privilege in this country for a very long time. This is not even me talking about white privilege. This is me talking about that thin blue line, that looking out for each other, that looking out for each other's families. That, okay, yeah, we took a life or a life was lost, but we'll just bury this and there won't be any justice for these families. And when you think about it, that has been the story of America since our foundation. Can you imagine how many slaves have died at the hands of slave masters? You know what I'm saying? It was just written off, you know what I'm saying, as property. Right now, we count over 4,000 lynchings in this country, but I guarantee that number, that's on the low end. That's the ones we know about. Down the street, we're going to do an episode when everything opens up. We're going to do an episode from this monument they have here, but they have a lynching memorial to where they recognize and honor all the victims that lost their lives. But can you imagine all of the cases that we've never seen because in this country, honestly, white people have had the ability to kill black people without any repercussions. And in the police force, we're still seeing that right now. And then what we're seeing is because of the mentality in this country, we're seeing a demographic okay with black lives being taken away, even if it's not at the hands of a police officer. If it fits your agenda, if you can pin a crime on this individual, then a lot of people have the ability to justify them dying. And it's absolutely crazy. It's sad, it's evil, and I ask you to check your heart and check your mind. And like I said, you will see this over and over again. And our goal, our idea is to build a bridge. Because what I will say there are a lot of advocates right now that we've never seen before. You know what I'm saying? It seemed like we were crying out on our own, but we're in a day and age where people have woken up and they say, oh man, dang, not only do I hear their cries, I see what they're going through, and I demand justice as well. So I told my friend here, I said, a line has been drawn in the sand. So what I need everybody else to do, because he's going to answer a tough question that I have for him, what I need everyone to do that listens to this, no matter what side of the conversation you are on, we really have to approach our own biases. We really have to look at, what we're willing to tolerate. Have we gotten to a place where we're just okay with people dying, and because I didn't know their name, because I didn't know it, I can sit there and have the ability to justify anything? That's the crazy thing. When I look at it, when I study chemical imbalances in the mind and the brain, the irrational mind has the ability to justify just about anything. So when your mind is irrational, when you have made up your mind, you know what I'm saying? You put yourself in a situation where you can justify the most heinous of acts. Like, we saw the video of Ahmaud Arbery gunned down, and yet there was still a great amount of people that justified his killings, that was waiting for something to come out to appease their bias. We saw a 17-year-old that, in the military, your parents have to sign. If you're 17, your parents have to sign a waiver for you to come in the military. And before we give you a weapon, we train you thoroughly. We put you through all kind of training. Matter of fact, by the time you complete training, you're not going to be 17 anymore. You'll be 18. You know what I'm saying? You'll be, and you'll continue your training over and over and over again. We don't ask 16, 17-year-old civilians because another time, I'll put this out there for you. Trayvon Martin was 17 years old, and y'all said he deserved to die when he was defending himself from a grown man with his hands. He had his fist, and George Zimmerman had a gun. You know what I'm saying? And he defended himself with his hands. And y'all said it wasn't self-defense there. Y'all gave the self-defense to the aggressor, George Zimmerman, who had a gun and shot him point blank and killed him. For being in a neighborhood that was his, he was somewhere he was allowed to be because it was the neighborhood that he lived in. He was going to the store to get something to drink and some Skittles, and he was wearing a sweatshirt that had a hoodie on it. And y'all justified his death, and you fast forward today, check your bias, because a 17-year-old kills 2 people and shoots 3 total, and y'all justify that just as well. Y'all justify the killing of a 17-year-old that was defending himself, and then y'all justify the killing of a 17-year-old murdering 2 people and shooting a 3rd, when he shouldn't have even been there with a gun. One should have been there, the other shouldn't have been there. One was died, the other killed. One was black, the other was white. And guess which one y'all justified? And that's absolutely crazy. Check your bias. And on this podcast, we want to talk about building a bridge. We want to talk about unity and racial reconciliation and fixing the injustices in America. So I asked Ryan, I said, how do we build that bridge? And when we say build the bridge, it takes a bridge to get from two sides that are separated by any type of engulfment. You know what I'm saying? It takes a sturdy bridge, one that has a concrete, a stable foundation to get from one platform to the other. And what we're talking about is the injustices in America that have been going on for a very long time, to racial equality and justification in America, to where we actually are united and we are walking hand in hand. But because of the distrust and because of everything that's going on in America, I said that line has been drawn. So the platform is yours. How do we build that bridge?
It's difficult. I think like what we talked about starting with episode 1 was was first being willing to have these conversations, but 2, you have to be willing to listen.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that we in past episodes have used some statistics and stuff like that as far as evidence. We've had people try to argue counterpoints with statistics and stuff like that, and I understand statistics can help understanding some things, but actual real life events, that tells you way more. And I'll give a for instance. I'm not going to use his name because I don't want to embarrass him or put him on the spot. So when we were stationed in Georgia, myself and one of my black friends, we both went to get our oil changed. I step up to the counter first. The guy's nice, friendly. Tell him that I need to get the oil changed for my car, blah, blah, blah. Everything's good to go. I walk away from the counter. My black friend walks up to the counter. I'm sure some people aren't going to believe this and are going to try to act like I'm lying or embellishing. Yeah. This is the cold, hard truth. That guy stood there and stared like there wasn't a person standing 2 feet in front of him just on the other side of the counter. So then I stepped back up to the counter and I asked him, I said, "Excuse me, is there a problem?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "My friend's standing right here trying to talk to you because he needs to get the oil changed in his car too. Are you going to help him or not?" And the guy's like, "Oh, okay." But it's like, it wasn't like he was just standing there. Like, he literally started talking to the guy, and the guy acted like he didn't even exist.
Yeah.
And I was beyond furious. Somehow my black friend wasn't that upset and tried to calm me down in this situation, which almost hurt me more because then it told me he's fucking used to this.
He's used to it.
And excuse me for any listeners for my language, but I'm going to be blunt right now. And I said this last week, so I want to say it again. Hopefully I can say it similar to how I did. If you don't think that there's a racist problem or a racism problem in our country, you're either ignorant, scared or something and turning a blind eye, or you're racist.
Yeah.
You can't tell me that the only racist people are people that are working minimum wage jobs at stuff like a place that you go get your oil changed or your car taken care of or your tires changed or anything like that, or at a bakery, or in the government. There are people that are racist.
Yeah.
In every aspect of life, there are people that are racist. And not only that, but that means that they are using their racism to dictate how they are wanting laws implemented.
Yeah.
And how they are wanting policies implemented. If you don't believe that, then like I said last week, you're probably surrounded by only white people.
Yeah.
Because it would boggle my mind that you could have black friends or even Mexican friends or Asian friends or any other ethnicity besides white and say that you've never seen racism. And if
Yeah.
you've seen racism, but you don't think it goes all the way up to the highest levels of government, then you're ignorant. There's if that offends anybody and you don't want to be my friend because of it, there's the door. I don't need those people in my life.
Yeah. And that's what if y'all didn't know, that's what I mean when I say there's been a line drawn in the sand. And if you're on one side of the line, you can sit there and say, I'm not racist, but it's hard to tell the difference when everyone around you, you know what I'm saying, looks a certain way. So you gotta make that decision. And like you said, though, the sad part is we learn to pick our battles, man. So many of us, like he said, ask if you have any black friends, ask them and have this conversation and say, have you experienced racism? You know what I'm saying?
They'll probably laugh in your face that you're asking that question at first.
Yeah, right.
But be like,
right?
but let them understand that you want to understand what they've had to deal with. And not just be like, this guy's probably never dealt with racism. Hey, Adrian, you ever dealt with racism before?
Exactly. Let me get out my book. But yeah, we it's not that we ignore it. We just we pick our battles because, like I said, there's times where, God, that's what, as a man, that is one of the worst feelings when you're made to feel less than a man, whether it's with police officers or whether it's with anyone else. And you don't want to give your credentials, man. I remember, and I had to check my mind, and I was being profiled and discriminated against. I was in a mall in Florida, and I'm shopping, and this security guard was following only me around. I'm talking about, this is a year where I just came off making 6 figures the year prior to that. And in my mind, my pride is like, I make way more than you make. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and you're following me around. You know, but
I can probably pay your salary 5 or 6 times if you want.
Right? Exactly. I can double your salary. You know, I double your salary. But I'm like my response to that was just like, I was with my brother and my brother-in-law, and I was just like, let's just leave. I don't feel like dealing with this today. But yeah, every single aisle I'm at, I'm like, he's right there. I said, you know what? Let me go look at women's clothing to see if he's gonna follow me all the way to the women's clothing aisle. Sure enough, he's right there. So I'm just like, and that happens, would happen over and over again. And you get to a point to where you're like, okay, this is something I address. This is something I want to address. And that's exactly what you saw. And like you said, it's sad that in America, I'm saying, we're not talking about any other country. We're talking about in America. This is what we're accustomed to. This is what we accepted as being okay. And like you said, you have to decide. You have to make a choice. How do I want my name remembered in history? What do I want my children to know about? What do I want my children to say about? How do I want my children to go about? Do I want my children fighting this battle? Do I want my children being a certain way towards people just because of the way they look, the color of their skin? And I told y'all in episodes ago, what we're seeing in this government is we're seeing the majority of people that are listening are in the same socioeconomic class. So what you do is when it comes to politics and power, is dividing the people, and the easiest way to divide people is by race. But that's the easiest way, but it's also the most basic and ignorant way also. And there's going to come decisions in America where we're going to either have to stand together or we're going to die and fall together. And I'm saying, when I say there's going to be decisions, I'm not talking about 10, 15 years down the road. I'm talking about soon. And you need to make a decision. What side? How do I want to be remembered? What side am I going to be
on? And real quickly to add, as far as building the bridge, I think 2 things that are important is making both sides feel like you're not trying to take something from them.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that's, and I don't understand it, so it's hard for me to describe, but I feel like that's part of the far right side is like, it's like by them actually giving equal rights to black people, they're losing something.
Yeah. Well, that's how racism was created in America. You have poor white people, you have black people that were brought over here from Africa, and you did have poor white. And I'll give y'all history that a lot of y'all didn't know. A lot of y'all try to say, oh, white people were slaves first. I will say this: there were white people that were indentured servants. You know what I'm saying? But to keep those poor white people feeling better, they said, hey, you're a poor white person, and I don't have to give you anything. I'm not paying you a fair wage. You have absolutely nothing. You have no wealth to your name. You know what I'm saying? You're not educated. You're not any of this. Yeah, you're a poor white person that means absolutely nothing in America, but you're not as bad as these black people. You have it good. You know what I'm saying? You don't have it as bad as these black people. And that's how, and like you said, that's how this has been created. So if that's been the history and the mentality for a very long time, then yes, equal rights does feel like I lose something. And that's crazy. That is like, I guess it's the competitiveness in us. I guess it's us growing up playing sports to where if I want to beat you knowing that I beat you at your best. I want to beat you. No, I don't want to. What's the point of playing sports if I go and the deck is stacked? You know what I'm saying? And we're playing a game of 21 and I got 19 and y'all start at 0. That's no fun. You know what I'm saying? I would get that if I was playing against NBA players, but like on a normal basis, that's not fun. It's like life. That's life, and it makes you better. It makes you a better man, a better woman. It makes you better at what you do when you truly work your hardest and put your best into something and give it your all. You know what I'm saying? And you're operating on an equal playing field. You know?
And the other thing that I wanted to add is not giving the extreme left or the extreme right a podium to stand on or to stand at to speak, because that's also an issue. And the opposite side understanding that they're not speaking for the majority. Because I feel like that's always the argument is, oh well, this side did this or said this. It's like that's the 1%. You can't. Like, we are definitely. This isn't a basketball team or a business or something like that. You can't hold the 99% accountable for the 1%. And those are always the loudest voices, is the 1%. And then we let their words hold weight. Like, I'll give a example for the other side of things right now. Because I totally disagree with it. And it seems like most of social media and stuff like that I've seen is disagreeing with it. Steve Nash gets hired by the Brooklyn Nets to become the next head coach. He has zero prior head coaching experience. I think he had been on Golden State and stuff like that. I think in a somewhat of a coaching role, but I don't think it was like an official.
Way down there.
Yeah, it wasn't an official coaching position. And Stephen A. Smith comes out on ESPN and says, "This is like the definition of white privilege." I don't know the exact quote, so I'm not going to try to quote it specifically, but he used the term "this is white privilege," is what he was saying. And says that a black man would never be given this opportunity. And then even black people are coming out and saying, if you look at it, including Steve Nash, 4 out of the last 6 head coaches that have been hired with 0 coaching experience have been black. But we're letting a somewhat radical person, I think Stephen A. is probably a very good person, but his job is making radical takes. But we're letting that hold weight. Like, that meant nothing because he was completely wrong. So why are we letting it hold weight? Like, the majority doesn't need to address that because it doesn't hold any weight because it's incorrect.
And that's what I had to do. And I encourage, this will be in my, this is a part of my final thoughts. So this is a part of my final thoughts. But that's what you said is exactly what I had to do on my social media page. Like I don't even, if people don't want to have an intellectual conversation, and then there's some things where we're past intellectual conversations. You just want to argue, and the truth is right there, and you don't want it. I just said you're right. You know, I don't even give them a platform. I don't even give them like, you know what? For my peace, for my sanity, you're right. You got that. You got it. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, and you don't engage. You don't engage with them. But right now, that 1% is extremely boisterous. You know, when if we sit down and have conversations like this, we will see that our ideas are pretty much leveled, and they may differ just slightly on certain topics or something like that. You know what I'm saying? But our ideas aren't so much so that it requires us to hate one another and wish death on the other person. You know what I'm saying? Wish death on everyone that doesn't agree with me. Yes, and this is America. Everybody has the freedom of speech, but everybody doesn't have the freedom of a platform. You know, like you said, don't give them a platform for your peace, for your sanity. We already got enough craziness going on in America. We're already dealing with enough just for you. You know what I'm saying? Just learn. Everybody doesn't require your attention. You know what I'm saying? Your time is extremely valuable. Your time is the greatest resource that you have. Don't cast your pearls on swine. Don't give the most valuable thing you have to someone that doesn't even deserve it. Someone that doesn't care about you, that could care less if you live, die, breathe, that doesn't even think you're worth anything. Why give them the most valuable thing you have? So I like that point you made, man.
And I would definitely agree and like that too. Like, you don't understand how many similarities you actually have with someone.
Yep.
A perfect example of that is my best friend in the whole world.
Yeah.
We met start of our sophomore year of high school. We hated each other for like 6 months.
Yeah.
Do you think during that 6 months, do you think I was looking for any similarity that we had? No.
Yeah.
And then it was like we had a mutual friend, so we ended up like hanging out as a group one time, and then within a month we're best friends. Because
Yeah.
I was actually like, let that wall come down and start understanding all the things that he actually possesses that I appreciate and like and want in my life as well.
Yeah. And that's like my best friend Darius Jones. Like, so what you said before that is, you said we give people platforms that don't deserve to have platforms. Darius, he's an air traffic controller. Him and his wife, they're like brother and sister. Like, I'm saying, I would literally walk in their house like, no, not. I got a key. Like, they would call like, yo, breakfast. We're about to sit down and have breakfast. Where you at? But at first, I did not like him for the sheer reason somebody told me something about him. They told me he was arrogant and he was stuck up. I came in, they were young. They were like 19 when I met him or something like that. He had a Movado watch on, and I knew how expensive Movados were. And they just got married, and his wife had a big old ring, and I'm like, oh, they're rich, they're spoiled. You know what I'm saying? Their parents give them all of this stuff. I had this bias against them for the longest time. Man, best friends. That's my daughter's godparents. You know what I'm saying? I'm their son's godfather. You know, and it's like inseparable. It's the type of friendship, you know, the military know these friendships where if you don't, I'm sorry, am I back?
Yeah, you back.
Don't see someone for a long time, all you're doing is catching up. You know what I'm saying? So we do that, and like I said, if you take the time and talk to somebody, I'm saying, like, you know what, something crazy that I did. People that seen when we started this, here's what it caused me to do. It caused me to stop engaging with people on social media in comments alone. It's like that Key and Peele skit where they were conversating via text messages. And one is going absolutely crazy and the other one's just chill, like, you know.
Yeah.
I stopped engaging in the message section, and I actually called them, or they would call me, and I said, I'm glad you called me. Here's where I stand. Here's what I think. And you know what? We may not think the same, but this is why I think that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, stop engaging in my conversations like this because we're coming off a certain way. And then we came to a mutual agreement, or we would think similar on a lot of things, even though like were fundamental things that were different, but it was more than just us because a lot of times in 2020, and like since it started probably since 2008, the way people communicate now is people communicate with counter comments. They don't communicate with ideas and ways to engage and actually thinking from another side. You know what I'm saying? So even when what you present, it doesn't matter what you present when someone's mind is already made up. People are going to counter that regardless. So take the time to talk with people, and then those that don't want to listen, you make your voice heard, you make your standpoint there, and then you don't give them a platform, like you said. But like you said, we have, like, I bet you a lot of your best friends, you probably may not have liked them at first. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or you may have heard something about them, and then when you get to meet the real them, you're like, oh, this is nothing like your life. Like black people and rednecks have so much in common. Like it's like they try to paint rednecks being the ones that hate black people, but rednecks hate police. You know what I'm saying? Rednecks always have guns on them. So when they say, "Oh, he had a gun," rednecks always have guns on them. You know what I'm saying? Like, you keep a gun in the back of your truck in case you see a deer that you want to shoot or something like that. You want to go hunting. Like, rednecks always have guns. Rednecks, like police stop rednecks from having fun. So there's always that altercation. But like I said, if you take the time and meet people and understand where they're at and talk to them and get past these biases, I agree with you. That's how the bridge begins to get built, one brick at a time.
Agreed.
Cool.
I think that was a perfect way to end it.
Yes, sir. So, man, we appreciate y'all coming and spending time with us, man. Let us know what you think. Hit the share button, man. I think this conversation needs to be had all across our Facebook pages. Reach out to us if you have any questions. If you disagree, we will get to your comments, and we will. We may even have you on here if you're available. But yeah, man. I think that I really enjoyed this episode, man. Thanks for having this conversation with me.